Rage versus results and the great Democrat freakout. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Being a liberal means never having to say you're sorry. An overstatement? Well, maybe. But given some of the more recent politically inspired acts of vandalism and violence, and of defamation and libel, it's closer to the truth than not. 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it would have been unthinkable that major political and media figures would bend over backwards to excuse criminal behavior because they agreed with the perpetrator's political motivation. Yet in this age of rage, this happens all too frequently.
Didn't Jussie conflate the two? Didn't he, in fact, attempt to paint the MAGA supporters as these racist and homophobic people? I think
I have to disagree with you there.
If the story's true, that...
Yeah. Well, but Michelle, I have to respectfully disagree. I think MAGA supporters have painted themselves as that.
Okay, well, the Jussie Smollett case is all at once depressing and enlightening. Well, it's depressing because so many seem positively giddy. They were thrilled that a hate crime like that would have happened. Finally, they could draw a direct line from the support for Trump to support for almost a lynching. You had a noose, you had a racial and anti-gay slur. It was the politically perfect storyline that pushed all the right anti-Trump buttons.
A Hollywood star who's black and gay, and now the victim of a heinous crime.
The idea of racial slurs and maybe even some of the homophobic slurs being used toward him, you can see how serious this crime is right now.
Absolutely despicable. And this is America in 2019.
So now, even when it seems like the entire thing was a sick charade, the race hustlers remain undaunted.
Interesting, when you use hatred and bigotry and lying for your own selfish end and you're a young black kid, gay black kid, you get indicted. If you do it when you're an old white guy, you become president. And I think there are enough monsters out there for real that we don't have to make any up. And I think that, you know, what white supremacists has never, they're at a historical high.
Now focus on that last line for just a moment. White supremacy in 2019 is worse than it was, let's say, in 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama, when water cannons and dogs were released on civil rights marchers, when children were blown up in churches. Trump-hating comedians, undeterred by actual facts, are suddenly aggressively unfunny. Comedian Billy Eichner saying, if it turns out the attack was staged, that is disgusting. But don't give me any BS about MAGA supporters being the victim here. A bunch of white supremacists falsely accused of inspiring a crime are still a bunch of white supremacists. They poison the soul of our country and of the world, and the crimes against humanity will be felt long after we've forgotten about Jussie Smollett. Crimes against humanity? Okay. Billy, like what? Policies that grow the economy and spur wage and job growth across the board, including for African Americans? That crime against humanity? Or the crime against humanity of creating, what, opportunity zones in some of our most debilitated communities? Or is it the crime of criminal justice reform that's a crime against humanity? You see what I'm saying? It's patently ridiculous. But this is all very enlightening, is it not? Because here's what's really happening. Trump's policies are actually working. We see it all around us. The Mueller report, it looks like it's going to be a dud. And liberal heroes are self-combusting before our very eyes. So the Democrat protectorate are in total freak-out mode. Let's look back. Their Kavanaugh accuser, Blasey Ford, flamed out. Their indigenous 2020 hopeful, Elizabeth Warren, was knocked off her high horse. Virginia's Democrat leaders are tangled up in blackface and Me Too scandals. And now, with Smollett, their dream of the perfect Trump-inspired hate crime has also fizzled. So now we're back to Donald Trump being Hitler, Pol Pot, and Stalin all rolled into one. That's the best they have. And while they mouth the requisite if Jussie did it, and this is wrong, well, they quickly then revert to their tired old narrative that today minorities should live in fear. Comedian Hari Kondabolu tweeting, "What Jussie Smollett is accused of is despicable. However, Don't forget that we believed he was the victim of such horrendous hate crime because it's the type of thing that happens way too often, especially in the Trump era. He may have taken advantage of a very realistic fear. And the queen of racial fear-mongering, Mad Maxine Waters, she freely admits she believed Jussie's ridiculous story because his views checked all the liberal boxes.
He's a friend. He was at my office. We marched in the Pride Parade together. He introduced me at Black Girls Rock, and so I believed him when I heard about it.
Well, if Congresswoman Waters wanted to learn something, she might try to engage with black Americans who see this all very differently. They aren't looking to blame Trump or conservatives for all of their woes, past or present. What they're looking for are real solutions and real hope.
Every citizen alive today and generations yet unborn are forever in debt of the brave souls who stared down injustice and championed the eternal cause of civil rights. And by the way, as you've been hearing me say, African American unemployment is at an all-time low, historic low.
Well, the scene last night at the White House is part of what inspires the ongoing Democrat freakout. The real possibility that President Trump, at the Black History Month celebration, it was oversubscribed to have more than 300 people. People couldn't even get in. That maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump could peel off 5%, maybe even 10% more of the black vote in 2020. That's unnerving to the left. But there's a new movement emerging.
I really don't even understand why so many people hate black people, well, people that look like me and him, hate this president. Because this man has done more than any other president has done for people that look like me and him.
I always said, don't get caught up in the emotions.
But what about the S-hole countries comment? And what about, well, you know, it's always, you
That's
know.
emotion. Well, that don't pay bills. That don't build
exactly.
businesses. That doesn't do anything except keep this junk going that has no substance in black America.
Well, the Democrats' race baiting and the fear-mongering, it's only going to go so far. But if they keep it up, emotionally worn-out African-American voters may do what Democrats fear most: tune them out and focus on Trump's record of accomplishment in their communities. And that's the angle.
A conservative activist allegedly assaulted for promoting his conservative beliefs at UC Berkeley campus. This brutal attack caught on camera. Watch.
Jesus Christ. What?
Oh, gosh, poor guy. Alexander Sarka is a student at UC Berkeley and witnessed that exchange, and he joins us now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Alexander. Tell us what happened.
So effectively, what happened was I got out of class and I went to Sproul Plaza, which is the main area on campus in which students and other people are free to table and give out flyers, this sort of thing. And I noticed that there was a table that said something to the effect of beware of false hate crimes, obviously a reference to the recent Jussie Smollett incident. And right when as soon as I noticed that, I was drawn to a verbal altercation that was occurring between the individual tabling, Hayden, and a few other people. And then that quickly escalated from a verbal altercation into a violent altercation where the table was flipped by the individual who you see punching the man. And then from there I started to record, and I was lucky enough to get the most egregious parts of the incident on camera.
But you didn't get everything. But first off, how is it that we haven't found this guy yet? You have a full shot of his face on video. I mean, come on. He's most likely a student who, say, has a backpack on. Is there any effort being made to find this guy?
Honestly, I can't weigh in on that. I know that the university, the response from the university has been very weak sauce, in my opinion. The statement that Chancellor Carol Christ sent out was a very blanket condemnation of violence, and it really didn't go into the specifics of the case, despite the viral nature of this
Let me read that statement so folks at home can can make their own judgments. She says, let there be no mistake. We strongly condemn violence and harassment of any sort for any reason. At this point, we have no information indicating that the perpetrators are affiliated with the university, and I join our police department in urging anyone with information about the incident to come forward so we can apprehend and bring the perpetrator to justice. So you're not happy with that. You said it's too weak, too soft?
Well, I'm not given the context, because if you see the last statement that she sent out before that, it was about 3 times longer, and it went into much more specificity, much more what's the word? Much more
detail.
Yeah, well, much more emotion was behind it. You could obviously tell, and that was just addressing some comments that were made about certain faculty members being plants or agents of Chinese or Iranian governments. And while I agree with her statement that I completely agree with the tone and tenor that she took with that, she did not apply that same passion, that same specificity to this case.
What was Hayden Williams, the guy who got punched? He was on with Sean last night, Sean Hannity. What was his reaction? What was he doing? Is there anything we didn't see on this video? Because everyone wants to know the whole story when we see these videos now.
No, I definitely agree with. So you have to understand that I only briefly, it was just an extremely fortuitous event that I happened to be walking by when this event transpired very quickly. All I know is that he was standing there, he was at the table, and he was obviously had provocative material for Berkeley.
Yeah, for Berkeley, because he said, beware of false hate crimes. Why should that be offensive to anybody?
Well, within the Berkeley context, it's offensive because it's like, obviously they're like making fun of like the Jussie Smollett incident. That's obviously the perception here.
Well, put it this way, look at the face, look at the video. Any officer in that area knows who this guy is. They could find him in 9 seconds. So they're not making any effort.
No, I don't necessarily disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm simply just saying, I've come on this show because I want to prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law. Yeah. And I've been talking to every media outlet I can from across the political spectrum, because I absolutely believe that he should be prosecuted and apprehended.
You're well-spoken. We appreciate you getting this on video so that we can find out who this person is and police can get to the bottom of it. Thank you so much for being brave.
Right.
Absolutely. It was good to be here.
That guy should have been arrested, right?